All right, guys, welcome back to Heel Report, presented by Tar Heel 24/7. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Tar Heel 24/7 publisher. Andrew Jones and AJ, we're here to wrap up Jaden Young week on our website. Another fun-filled basketball week, as well as a football week too, man. I mean, I know basketball season hasn't officially started yet, man. But when you look back at all the basketball content we've been pumping out with these weekly kind of focuses on these returning players and some of the new guys as well, it's been fun, man. It's been very fun to mix in some of that basketball stuff. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, yeah, they start in 52 days.
It's crazy. It's creeping up.
So if we were 53 days out from the start of football season, that would put us in, early mid-July, and we're running football content. So a lot of people are like, well, why are you running all this basketball content? It's still football season. We're doing both. We do both year round. That's one of the beautiful things about it. And what happened is that when I decided that I was leaving THI and a week later this job came up, I said, okay, I'm going to get all this stuff done that I would run normally in the off season at THI, save it for here. And it's a week dedicated to a different scholarship basketball player. So we started a little bit later than usual, and it's running into access we're now getting from the program, which I think if you're a Carolina basketball fan, it's a massive win. Because we got Hubert last week, we got Henry Vessar and Kyan Evans this week. Next week we get Seth Trimble. We're going to get a couple different guys, or we're getting Seth by himself for obvious reasons, but a couple different guys most weeks. So they're giving us access. Practice starts on the 22nd. We're probably going to get access to watch some of practice, so we'll have a ton of videos and things for you. So I mean, it's here. Yeah. They're ramping up for basketball season. They're in Salt Lake City in less than a month. Around a month. So it's here. I think it's great to have a crap load of basketball content to build up. And I really like the weeks dedicated to these different players, because we hit everybody on Monday with a feature story. Tuesday is them by the numbers. Now, a few people wanted context, and I'm like, well, these are just a giant stack of numbers. You can come up with your own context to it. And that's what part of the process is. It's a layering process of information. Wednesday is their 6 best games from last year and what they might mean moving forward. Thursday is the great David Sisk film review. Friday, you and I talk about it.
Yeah.
So we hit people with 5 different types of content, and we dive into one player during the week and massage everything we can. And if you don't have enough about Jaden Young now or after this podcast, well, there are places to research, but we gave you a whole lot this week. And it's a lot of fun to do. I like it because it gets me prepared for the season. It's kind of hard to create content for North Carolina basketball without being excited, because so many people are going to be excited to see it.
100%.
Read it, watch it, listen to it, because the passion runs so deep. It's a lot of fun from my perspective.
Yeah, there's no doubt, man. People love it, and again, it's the Church of Carolina basketball for a reason, man. And people absolutely love when we talk about this kind of stuff. And yeah, we'll dive into Jaden Young right here, because I do think he's another intriguing guy, and kind of seeing where he might fit in and what role he might have with Carolina, I think is an interesting question as well that will probably be hard to answer before the season. But I think he's a guy that people will have differing opinions on, if that makes sense. So, a guy that spent 2 seasons at Virginia Tech, a North Carolina native, funny enough, from Goldsboro, 4-star recruit out of Greensboro Day, which is a school that I know a lot of, got people from North Carolina will know and recognize. And his father actually played basketball at Mount Olive and professionally overseas. So a lot of North Carolina connections for Jaden Young. Just a quick snapshot in his 2 seasons at Virginia Tech, played 58 games, around 937 minutes, averaged 5.3 points per game for his Virginia Tech career. 34% from the floor, 31% from three, 84% from the free throw line. And his career total, 75 rebounds, 64 assists, 40 turnovers, 20 steals, and just 1 block. So, I mean, I guess with his height, probably not a guy who's going to get too many blocks when he's playing basketball. But AJ, he's intriguing because he's a guy that has ACC experience. And it's the number one thing that this stands out. And is he a guy that I think is going to come in and start for North Carolina and play 25, 30 minutes a game? No. I think everybody probably watching this can agree with that. But I think we said this on the podcast we did when he committed to North Carolina. When you can get a guy that has ACC experience, who wants to be here for the right reasons, and isn't going to cost you much money, which we know how big of an issue that kind of became for North Carolina, especially late in the portal. I think it makes a ton of sense why you go out and bring in a guy like Jaden Young. So I know there's some other things we'll more focused on his stats and what his game is like that we're going to talk about in this. But just in terms of the person and guy that Carolina is getting in Jaden Young, especially with that ACC experience, again, I can understand why Hubert Davis and his staff brought someone like this in.
Let's say, for the sake of discussion, he's the 11th man, which is not out of the realm.
No.
How many teams in college basketball have an 11th man with almost 1,000 minutes of ACC experience who had scoring games late last season, 26 and 27 points against Miami and Syracuse?
Very few, if any.
So what I'm getting at is that at the very minimum, they have really solid depth way down the bench. And let's say, for the sake of discussion, it's a Saturday afternoon against Georgia Tech, and let's say Seth Trimble has a busted nose and he's out, or concussion. He's had some concussion issues before.
Yep.
Let's say he's out with a concussion. And let's say Isaiah Dennis has been nursing an ankle for a while, so you lose some of your depth there. And then Kyan Evans gets into foul trouble, early foul trouble. And Luke is struggling at the point. Well, or Derek Dixon is okay, but you got to spell him something. You're going to use Jaden Young. And you may use him for a while because he's played long, extended minutes and been productive in them. And in the case of a couple of those games that I just noted from last year, he was really good down the stretch in those games, helping the Hokies win some contests. So if that's what he ends up being, there's no other team in the country that has that kind of luxury. And what it is you have a guy that might be in a situation that probably won't be sulking, because everything we know about him is he wants to be there. He left a scenario where he could very well possibly start this year, knowing that the playing time is not going to be guaranteed, but it's a dream. And he's like, I don't want any money. You got
to give him a lot of credit for that.
There's a minimum that the scholarship guys get.
Yeah,
in our previous life, we report all the numbers. And we went over all that before. I'm not going to go into it.
He's not short on the rent, AJ.
No, but the thing is he's like, I'm not. You don't have to make me an offer I can't refuse. Just make me the offer. Say, okay, we have a spot for you. Well, Hubert, yes, we have a spot for you. Okay, I'm coming. If you want me, I'm coming. May I come? May I have a uniform? May I practice? May I play? I mean, he really wanted to be there, and he is. And he's a guy that's had some success. I saw him play in person last year, late in the season, when Carolina went to Castle, and he hit a couple jumpers and looked like an ACC player. And maybe didn't look like the higher end ACC player, but you don't need to have the higher end ACC player in all your roster spots, because very rarely is that possible. What he is, he's a guy that is there for the right reason, like you said. He's good. He's very coachable. His dad's a coach. His dad's been involved in basketball for a long time. And he's also going to embrace whatever the scenario is for him. Will he want to play a whole lot? Of course he wants to play a lot. He's a competitive athlete. But I think what you're looking at as the minimum is what we said. I think that's sort of like the low end for him as far as what expectations could be. I think it could grow from there. Maybe he is the guy that ends up getting them the buckets off the bench. He can give them some instant offense. Maybe he is the guy that comes out and gives them great energy, and Hubert uses him if he wants to flash a press for a few minutes and doesn't want to wear it on the starters or just give a different look. Or there's that wave mentality. Roy and Dean love the wave mentality where you put the starters out there, the other team knows the starters are great. Then you got the next wave of dudes that come in and for different positions, and they're really good too. It's like, my God, here comes this fifth guard. And he scored 26 and 27 in ACC games. The wave mentality has an effect, an accrued effect on opponents sometimes. And I believe that this team is positioned to employ a wave mentality more so than any of Hubert's previous teams. And that would include Jaden Young having some kind of role in that process.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I agree with everything you said there. And to focus a little bit more on his game specifically, kind of what he's good at, what he excels at, maybe what he struggles with. I think the biggest thing, again, that two things that jump off the board for me. And I think David talked about this in his film review, and we wrote about it some this week too. A guy that relied heavily on the three-pointer. 45 made threes, hit 3+ in 5 games, and also a guy that I believe he took 91 total shots last year. 45 of them were three-point attempts.
Yeah.
Kind of shows you what we're saying. It's essentially, it is almost half, if not half, of the shots that he took last year from three-point land. And he's also a streaky scorer. I mean, there was 11 games where he was in double figures, AJ, but also 11 games when he was under 5 points. So I think this talks about what we're saying here is the high end with Jaden Young a starter on Carolina, a Carolina basketball team that is a national title contender? In my personal opinion, no. But the ACC experience, the ability or potential to be a relatively lethal three-point shooter, at least be a guy that defenses have to respect from the outside, and a guy, like you've said, who had some really big scoring games last year. You talk about the Miami game, 27 points, Syracuse, 26 points. I mean, I know Miami was horrific. I know Syracuse wasn't very good, but again, that's nearly 30 points against two ACC caliber teams. And again, he's a guy that you're bringing into, at least from what we understand and kind of based on his experience, probably be more of a role player off the bench for you. I think that's a big positive. Now, can he take that next step in his development? Can he become a more consistent three-point shooter? Can he become a more consistent offensive threat in limited minutes off the bench? That I don't know. I mean, Virginia Tech was a team that as David wrote about in his film review, that, they drew up plays for. I mean, they drew up sets for him to get going. So is that going to happen at North Carolina and Hubert Davis? I don't know. I don't necessarily think so. But the fact is, he's a guy that's done it before in the league. He's a guy that has a lot of experience in the league. And he's a guy that has had some massive games against ACC opponents. So all that is a big positive. But what his role might be on this year's team, which we'll talk about here in a second, I don't know. But I think it's more of a guy that is playing limited minutes off the bench.
So I'm glad that David brought up the fact they drew points, some shots up for him. I sat behind the Cal bench at the ACC tournament when Virginia Tech and Cal played, which was a really good game.
How many people were at that game? Like over or under 15?
As many that are in my office. No, it was actually maybe 6,000.
No disrespect to Cal and Virginia Tech, but play.
I mean, it's an ACC tournament game. It's you're there. It's part of the deal.
Out or anything? Yeah.
They drew up plays for him. He gets off shots. I mean, he's an ACC player.
Yeah,
he's not a guy that stumbled into minutes late in the year on a crappy team because someone had to play. I mean, Virginia Tech was around 500 in the league. I mean, they were not a good team, but they excelled some in league play. They weren't awful in league play. I know that when Carolina went up there late in the season, I saw them, they looked terrible. Yeah. And he did not look very good that game, other than he had a little stretch as well. But watching that game against Cal, and I was watching Stojakovic a lot from Cal for obvious reasons, I did watch Jaden Young, and I was caught by the fact that they were running stuff for him. He was coming out off screens, specific stuff where the offense would slow so he can come off 600 screens and get a jumper. So he can be trusted to do that at an ACC program. Tells me that he's going to have a lot of confidence unless his confidence gets squashed. And he's somebody that is going to compete. He's going to compete to play. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm wearing this uniform. This is the greatest thing ever. And all the greatness begins and ends with that. I don't think this is what he's doing. He probably thought, yes, I can go there now and play because look what I did. I can play. I can get on the court. I can help North Carolina win. However many the minutes are, we don't know. I think that that's up in the air for a lot of guys on this team.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that Hubert may be feeling out through Christmas. And I think Jaden Young's going to be in the mix. Now, might there be some DNPs? It's easy to say yes, because I don't think there's a whole lot of respect that comes from his 26 and 27 games. Some of the starts late in the year, the fact that he did play, he's a guy that's played us 1,000 minutes in ACC play. Whenever Carolina fans are talking about the team, his name doesn't come up. We've had interviews now with Hubert and two players in the last week, and Jaden Young's name didn't come up.
Yeah.
So he's a forgotten guy, and you may go through the whole season and he remains a forgotten guy. But what I'm saying is that they have another dude that could be at the end of the bench that has had some success, has a lot of experience. There's a small, grizzled nature to him, and he's highly competitive. That alone will help make this team better, because at least in Hubert's case, there have been times where the job wasn't getting done, and he'd turn around and look at the bench like, well, crap, I don't have anybody to put in. Now he does. And Jaden Young is an option. If he needs instant offense and some guys are sluggish and they need a little juice, Jaden go in there. And all of a sudden he's in there for 9 straight minutes and hits 3 threes. Yeah. Change the complexion of the game. I think that is a possibility this year. I don't think that that's what Jaden's planning on. I think he's planning on playing a ton because he should plan on playing a ton. That's what competitors do. But I also think he would embrace that role. And the fact that you can have a guy like that as an option in one of those scenarios makes this a stronger roster than it's been since Hubert took over because of the options he will have. And now the question, of course, which is a different topic for a different podcast, will Hubert use all of those options? That's the other question. But if he chooses to, he's got one in Jaden Young.
Yeah, that is a big question mark for sure. We'll explore that, I'm sure, as we get closer to the season and obviously dive into it. But you alluded to it there. We'll end with this about where he maybe fits in this year. I agree. Guy that comes off the bench, guy that can give you some good minutes. What those minutes look like, I don't know. We were talking a little bit off camera of I'm a little bit torn with trying to project what Jaden Young's role might be on this team. And part of me is like, is he kind of like a Ty Claude of like, and this is no disrespect to Ty Claude, but what ended up happening with Ty Claude is eventually as the season went on, he just didn't play. He was a non-factor. You almost kind of forgot he was on the team at times. And he was a guy that came from Georgia Tech and, had some nice games and transferred before and played at Western Carolina and averaged like 17, 18 points a game there. And he comes in and you're like, yeah, he comes in as a role player, but man, he might be able to provide him some minutes and do some nice things. And then he gets into the team and we get deep into the season. And again, he just doesn't play. He's a non-factor. I'm torn between that potentially happen with Jaden Young, or if Hubert chooses to use his bench and chooses to rotate a lot and can have trust in guys like a Jaden Young who you think you'd be able to trust because of that ACC experience and some of the high end we saw with him at Virginia Tech. Or does he come in and maybe at most he's playing 10 minutes a game, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less sometimes. I'm a little bit torn on that, not because I don't think Jaden Young's because I think Jaden Young's a bad player. I don't think he's capable of playing at North Carolina. But the whole Ty, I can't really get away from like the Ty Claude comparison because I do see some comparisons there when you look at where they came from, what they were like at their previous schools, and they kind of come into this program that is a step up. And you're like, well, they can at least be a role guy, and they don't really end up being that because of different factors. So my gut feeling tells me he ends up playing a lot more than Ty Claude did and becomes a more important kind of role player than he was for Carolina. But I can't escape the fact that I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if he comes in because of how much guys are in front of him, because of how the roster works out, and because of how the team develops. You get in the thick of the season and he's just not really playing a lot. I'm kind of torn between the two. I'd like to hear what Carolina fans kind of think about that too.
Both Goldsboro guys.
Yeah, I know there's comparisons there. You don't have to look far. You know what I mean? I
think a difference. I'm going to counter. What I'll do is for the sake of discussion here, and so we can maybe include more feedback from people. So I want to know what people have to say about that too.
I think it's interesting. Yeah.
I'll counter it and say this. One, Claude was a Western Carolina player.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Who had a year at Georgia Tech, who went to Georgia Tech, and he actually was instrumental in Georgia Tech beating Carolina. Carolina was like, 10-0 in ACC play? Because the big guy got hurt that game and he filled in. But his high-end games at Georgia Tech weren't quite close to what what Jaden Young's high-end games at Virginia Tech.
And that's the difference, yeah.
And Jaden Young was recruited to an ACC school. He didn't have to navigate his way to one. Mm-hmm. So his elevation is going from Virginia Tech to Carolina, which is probably not as big a jump. It's definitely not as big a jump as going from Western Carolina to Georgia Tech. So I think Jaden Young is more naturally an ACC player. I think that the gifts, even though he's totally different position, the gifts are more suited for ACC. I think the competitiveness is probably there as well. Ty Claude helped Carolina a couple times last year, but there was a point of diminishing return with him.
Yep.
Really help you for 3 or 4 minutes, but my gosh, if there's 9 or 10 minutes straight, that wasn't really going to work too well. I think Jaden Young can help them in lengthy stretches because we've seen what he could do. I know Miami wasn't very good and Syracuse struggled, but they're still ACC games. Find me a player on this roster that did that against those kind of teams.
That's a good point.
It wasn't Seth Trimble. Seth's big game didn't count, Memphis. Yeah. Then he had 27 against Dayton out in Hawaii. And after that, he didn't have those kind of games. So Jaden Young went from being a role player on a mediocre team to having plays drawn up for him late in the year. I think there's something to say for that. I don't think Hubert's going to draw up any plays for him, but who knows? I think that's what makes this so fun. Football, there was a lot of unknown because we really didn't know. Mm-hmm. Here, there's a lot of unknown because we don't know the direction certain games are going to go. I think on the surface, if everybody's like they were a year ago, this is a pretty solid team. All right.
Mhm.
But whose trajectory goes this way? Whose trajectory goes this? I'm trying to do the camera the right way. Trajectory goes this way. Who remains plateaued is going to determine a lot about how much Jaden Young plays.
Mhm.
And where this team ultimately is. I'm not going to make a statement saying if Jaden Young's playing 20 minutes a game, this is not a very good team. I'm not going to go there with that. I'm also not going to say if Jaden Young's not playing much at all, that means this team is incredible because the other guys are so much better. I'm not going to say that either. We just don't know. But I do think if you are assembling a big basketball team, a basketball roster, and using 13 scholarships like they are, even though they can use more now, and he is toward the end of the projected rotation, that's not a bad piece to have in that spot. If that's the minimum, I think that is the minimum. So I think this is a better roster. They'll practice better. They'll compete more. The expectations will be higher. And Hubert has the opportunity to use the bench as a motivator more now than he has in the past. If he uses it or not, like I said earlier, is a different topic for a different day. But I think having Jaden Young there should inspire Hubert to more embrace using the bench as a motivator because he's got a 26 and 27 guy that he can put in the game.
It's a good point. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it could go either way with him, I think. And I don't think it's all down to him necessarily what his role might end up being. Like you said, I think a lot of it's up to the staff. And do they decide to dip into the bench more, use it as a motivator?
And other players.
Yeah.
And other players.
Yeah. What do the other players do? Yeah. I mean, there's so many different factors.
Maybe they don't need him.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the greatest insurance in the history of college basketball. But you know what? Evans is playing well. Tribble's playing really well. Luka's gotten used to the speed and length and the closeouts and that kind of thing, which he's working on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Caleb Wilson's amazing, and he's playing a bunch of minutes. And you've got Stevenson, and you've got Powell, and you've got Dennis, and you've got Dixon. There's a lot of guys that on an individual basis you can look at and say they can help this team win games. Mm-hmm. Jaden Young's one of them, but he may have 10 guys in front of him. So you can say the same thing about. It doesn't diminish him. It just says a lot about 10 guys in front of him.
Yeah, and probably in a perfect world, if you're being honest, if Carolina would have a really successful year, you'd probably want to be into the season in December and January. Like, yeah, there are 10 guys that are, more productive and have been better than a guy like Jaden Young. I think that's kind of a best case scenario. It just again, like you said, it's nothing against Jaden Young or he's a bad player or anything, but there is levels to it. And there are guys that are brought in to be starters and paid a lot of money to produce and be big time players for Carolina. Jaden Young isn't necessarily that guy, but like you said, if he's 11th guy on your bench, AJ, the guy that's 2 years ACC experience and close to 30 points against 2 ACC teams last year, that's pretty damn good, man.
Now watch him play 22 minutes a game and make us look like fools.
Yeah, I know. Like,
football, we had to take a stab in the dark on some football stuff. We're going to look foolish in some of that. I'm okay with that. You don't get into this profession and make projections and predictions.
Yeah, we don't have a crystal. We cannot see the future.
Without knowing you're going to look like a fool sometimes.
We can't see the future now.
So who knows about this? That's what makes it so fun to me.
Mm-hmm. That's
what makes it so exciting. They play a game in 7+ weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Bring it on, man.
Yeah.
More. I want more. I want to see what this club's all about. I love that kind of stuff. I am just as invigorated to cover that kind of stuff as I was when I started. And it's really neat when you can just go down that bench and roll the names off like I just did a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't do it last year.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't
do it the year before. And you sure as hell couldn't do it the first year. Maybe you thought you could for a while, but some of the guys proved that they weren't those guys.
Yeah,
they hadn't done much before. Some of the ones that you thought might help them a whole lot at times hadn't previously done a whole lot. We were like nitpicking, hey, he had 7 and 5 and 14 minutes against BC. That's different than 26 and 27.
It is different. Like I said, there are levels to it. And again, that is, I don't care how you look at it. I don't care who the team is. Dropping close to 30 points against 2 ACC teams is impressive. And it's a good guy to have on your bench, especially if he's a guy that, again, is not going to be relied on to be a starter or play 30 minutes for you. I mean, that's a nice little insurance policy to have back there. So I'm intrigued. I really am. I'm intrigued about this whole roster. But in a way, I know Jaden Young isn't going to start for the Tar Heels, but he's just as intriguing to me as a lot of other guys are. He just is. I mean, there's just so many unknowns and so many, what can this guy potentially be at North Carolina that we're not really going to know until the season, until we get in the thick of the season. So I'm very
start, but so that would be funnier than hell if he does start. Like the
Now, wouldn't
first
it be?
exhibition game.
And I just got people just all over me saying, you told me Jaden Young wasn't
They're
good.
going to be all over you now anyway, but that's okay. But that's part of the fun, too. That's why we encourage discourse, whether you agree or not. It's all fun. We want to know what y'all think. Where do you think Jaden Young's numbers are going to be? What is the most important stat that I want from people is not points or how many does he play every game and how many minutes does he average in ACC games?
Ooh, I like that.
Tell us what you think. Comment on Facebook, on our YouTube channel, on Twitter/X, and also on our site, Tario 24/7.
I love it, man. That's a great way to outro this. You did my job for me, AJ. I love it, man. I appreciate you doing that. We can wrap this one up.
I'm revving up for some solo drops coming up here too. So
yeah, heck yeah, man. We got plenty of stuff coming. There's no doubt about it. We are in full swing mode right now. As you said, like basketball starts like tomorrow, basically at this point. I mean, it might as well. You get to that 50-day mark, AJ. Get to that 50-day mark, and it's basically here. It's
yeah, I've been redeemed them twice in the last 8 days.
Oh, I know. After not talking to Hubert all summer. I mean, it ramped up quick, didn't it?
I'm telling you, I love walking in there.
Oh, I know, yeah.
I got Steve to let Noah into the court areas. We don't get to go in the court area. It's usually locked up when we're there just for regular like weekday pressers and stuff. And we went in and looked around the arena, and Noah covered Ohio State's football championship run. He covered Ohio State basketball too. And I said, you're about to see the basketball version of the horseshoe. And he's like all excited, and I loved it. See his eyes popping out because the place is beautiful. It's a great place. I know they're going to end up getting a new arena.
It's a museum, man.
It's still a great place. It is a museum. They play inside a museum. It needs a lot of work.
Yeah,
it's outdated times a trillion. I get it. I know what Bubba wants to do, and we'll do a different pod on this some other time as well. But the excitement that the basketball process is here. The process is here because we're getting players each week. And to see Noah's football first guy, which is great. That's one of the reasons I love having him on staff, because we need to feed the football beast at North Carolina just the same as we do the basketball beast. We want to make sure they're getting great football coverage, and Noah provides that. But he's looking around. It's like, man, look at all that stuff up there.
Yeah.
100%. And it was cool. And I'm looking around thinking, man, this is great. I can't wait to get the season going.
Like I said, man, it's almost here. It is definitely almost here. So AJ already did my outro for me, so I can just wrap this up even quicker. I've been Jacob Turner.
Say bye.
Yeah, he's been Andrew Jones. We appreciate you watching as always. I should just do that one time. We should just stop talking and I'll just say bye and we just end the podcast. I should just do that.
We used to do it with some of those videos. Those guys that did videos a while ago, like those auditors and stuff, they would just put the hand in the camera.
Like an influencer or something.
And then walk off. You should do that this time just for the hell of it.
That's what I think I actually will on this one.
Dude,
I'm going to do that for you. I'm going to do it for the people, man. But again, we appreciate y'all watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, get involved in the comments. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.